Hello, my friends. Welcome to 2025 Wholeness Unlock Conference. Again, I'm your host, Marie Woods. In today's section, I have a very special guest speaker. His name is Robert Jean. Robert Jing has been on our past events programs several times, and he has contributed his expertise and his experience by working with his clients, and really phenomenal his techniques, his approach. So, with that being said, let me introduce Robert to you. Over 40 years of studying the mind, human behavior, physical and mental health, spirituality, and more has all led Robert into a career aimed at helping others change their lives. As a worldwide teacher, international speaker, neuroplastician, behavioral
Hmm.
engineer, and the drug rehab consultant. Robert is one of America's leading experts on stress, trauma, PTSD, addictions, physical healing, and the neuroplasticity. Wow. Welcome, Robert.
Hey, good to see you and happy to share today some of my expertise.
Yes, always a thrill to have you. So, Robert, his topic today is the real truth about a PTSD. When many of us have heard of PTSD, which is post-trauma stress disorder, and how you can change your life quickly. That's Robert's topic today. So
Yeah.
let's start from this, Robert. Tell us, let's start with this. What makes you an expert in this area?
Well, I think what gives me the distinction of being an expert is because I know how to change it. Of course, a lot of these therapies out there, or even psychology, why did it become a disorder? How did it become a disorder? But so here it is. I started trying to work on myself for a long time, since I was 15 years old, right? And it led me down many paths. And of course, working with thousands of people, training all around the world. Um, my goal was to figure out why we have problems, what is it that creates problems, and how not only that, but how to change problems. And so it got to a point, I tried to figure out why do we have problems? Of course, there's a lot of structures out there, teachings, why we have problems, a woman, an apple, and an innocent man, and a snake, Now you got a curse. Is that why you have problems? Now we got Paul, he's talking about at one point, he says, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So what is this thing and why PTSD and why it become a disorder? So I'm an expert because I can measurably change any trauma, but you have to understand what traumas are. Now, how did I become an expert at? Well, first of all, I started working with a psychosensory process, studying about the mind, how the mechanics of the mind, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which gives us a layout of how the brain works, and working in drug rehabs. Now, drug rehabs, they have the top shelf of people with lots of problems and got a lot of good reasons why they have problems. And so every client we work with, we all have post-traumatic stress disruptions or distortions. Basically, what drives addiction is I don't want to feel bad anymore. I want something to feel good. So your addiction, whatever the addiction is a solution to an internal problem. This internal problem is memories and unpleasant experiences. So when I work with people who have had rape memories, murder memories, witnessing the most horrible, horrific experiences, Joshua, for example, he's was in the military. He's in a drug rehab. He's a nice looking young man. You look at him, you think he was just he's like a good guy, and he is. But he was in Afghanistan. He witnessed people killed. He killed people. He saw all horrible things. But he's in a drug rehab. And of course, when I'm there, they get 2 hour break when they come and see me. So he comes in, and of course, we work on bad memories. That's what drives addictions. And so he said, with a very timid voice, that, man, I've never shared this with anybody. It's just horrific. I said, I understand. And of course, there's this feeling that can I trust you? Will it work for me? Will you make me worse? And so I said, hey, listen, I know it's hard to talk about it, but why don't we do this to build rapport with you? Why don't you just pick the worst memory? Don't tell me anything about it, and I'll help you change it. Now, I want to say this, I help you change it. They know what it is. I don't, and I don't have to know. They do. And so within 5 minutes, I said, okay, can you make it bother you again? He says, no, it didn't bother me. I said, all right, now tell me what happened. So he told me the story. He says, it doesn't even seem like I'm there anymore. Now, again, how does memories work? That's the question. How does memories work and how does PTSD work? And so I worked with the worst possible things from, like I said, deaths, murders, addictions, you name the trauma, I've done it. Some of the stuff you'd cry if I told you the story. But for me, it's not a true story anymore because it's not true inside them. So I'm an expert because I get measurable changes. That means you can come in with the worst trauma and by the depend now there is some variety of variances here. There could be a lot of traumas all stacked together and we're stacked in as one, but a lot of traumas are pretty simple. They may, if you've had, because people have trauma. When I say trauma, let me explain what trauma is first, because most people think you're broken, you're screwed up, there's something wrong with you, your mind is racing and makes up scary stuff, you feel like you're going to die, uh, all kinds of things. But see, when this happens physically in our body and our mentally, consciously we think, what's wrong with me? Am I crazy? What's going on? I never had hot sweats. Just like with Joshua, after I did a session with him, I cleaned up after we did the first memory, we cleaned up a lot of memories. And he said, and the next day he came in, he goes, I slept all night long. He said, I wake up 6 times a night, every night. I slept all night long. And all he did is change memories, really bad memories to him, right? So he's sleeping all night long. And he says, but I'm out there smoking a cigarette and I'm trembling and I'm shaking. And I don't know why. And I said, well, let me explain how the brain works. Let's say you're in the kitchen eating breakfast and your dad comes in and throws a banana at you. Now, you've been educated with an experience that people walk in the door, they can throw something at you and hurt you. And all of a sudden, every time you sit at the table, you're anxious because fear something could happen to you. He goes, I know what it is, he said. I said, what is it? He goes, I'm in Afghanistan at night. Me and my buddy are leaning against the Humvee, smoking our cigarette. And I looked up and I saw all these tracer rounds coming right at us. Tracer rounds are bullets. So they jumped underneath the Humvee and they hear the bullet ding, 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 bing, 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 bing. And his brain had wired smoking, bad things are going to happen. Now, this is how the brain works. Feed the dog, ring the bell. Feed the dog, ring the bell. So the education for the brain are experiences. Little Marie Woods, when she was a little girl, I'm making this story up. She went to school in kindergarten. Her friend says, hey, won't you come to my house? So she rides the bus and goes to her friend's house. And then over a period of time, she ends up going home and mom is angry and raging. Now all of a sudden, Marie says, oh my God, what happened? Now mom gets a little switch and switches her little legs. This is an emotional education, also a trauma, because a trauma is educating you on how to survive in the world. Now, this impacted Marie in more than one way, physically, kinesthetically, and emotionally, logically. So this is a PTSD. Now, again, we think it's a disorder. It is not a disorder. It's a training on how to survive in the world. So again, when we're introduced into crazy family worlds, we learn a lot of survival skills that make us look like we're crazy later on. Or you could have a perfectly nice home, nice family, and something bad happens to you in the bathroom. Now that becomes a trauma and it affects you. So in my world, post-traumatic stress disruption or distinction is not broken. You're not screwed up. Now you are broken and screwed up if you go to the people who doesn't know how it works. You go to someone that they don't know it's mental, they don't know it's mechanical, it's inside their head. They think that something's wrong. And it is to them something wrong. Like my next door neighbor, his name's Phil. He's a big guy, he's a plumber, he's got a big belly. And so if Marie goes to him, he says, hey, Phil, I'm having panic attacks and anxiety, can't sleep. And you know what he's going to tell you? There's something wrong with your pipes. Something's clogged in there. Now, that's because Phil doesn't understand the mechanics of the mind. You go to a professional And they're going to say, well, or they talk about it and you feel worse, you want to kill yourself, or you just get worse over time. Or better yet, you'll join a group. You can go DNRS, you can go to Gupta, you can go to Joe Dispenza. Now, they're not going to deal with the bad memories. They're going to say, hey, be positive. Try to be positive. Well, being positive doesn't get rid of the negative because the negative is inside you. That means you're always going to be fighting within yourself. And you heard the story, the divided house falls, a divided mind falls. Now, Paul the disciple, he talked about this. He says, I'm willing, but something inside me won't let it happen. And that something inside you that doesn't let you happen or do what you think is good are memory references in training and survival skills. That's how post-traumatic stress operates. Now, it's not just disruption. It's not broken. You think about it, you're out there pumping gas in your car and you look up and you see an accident happen. Now you're having night sweats. You have a fear of driving cars and you're afraid to go put gas in your car. And you go see the psychologist. The psychologist says you have post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, disorder means something isn't working. So all of a sudden, your brain is broken just because you witnessed something. Before you're perfectly happy and normal, but you had an experience that educated you and expanded your world that beyond what you knew possible. So now you have anxiety. So this is how PTSD works. First of all, you're not broken, you're not screwed up. Your brain captured information from exposure. Now you can have PTSD watching a movie. Your mother, our mothers and our fathers put us a lot of emotional trainings called spanking on the bum or whatever else they happen to us. They does it at school. It's a conditioning to condition your behavior. That's why you do what you don't want to do and you don't know why you do it. You think you're sabotaging yourself. It's not, it's just the programmings. So I'm an expert because I can change it and I guarantee you I can change it. Measurable results. Two, I've been working with the worst possible stories you could ever imagine. Drug rehab is rich in emotional traumas. And like I say, measurable changes.
Mhm. Excellent. Um, so as we're talking about post-trauma stress, as they call a disturbance or
Mhm.
interruption of life, of a normal life, basically put a person in the survival mode, as you were talking about.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
key is to change the memory inside of us.
Mhm.
And through your bio, you call yourself a behavioral engineer, and
Mhm.
which means you can go inside the person's mind, the brain, and change the program literally, and
Yeah.
change the whole trajectory of the person's life. That's
Mhm.
wonderful. So we know that post-trauma stress can cause lots of trauma to individuals and their relationships. Can you
Mhm.
talk to us about the impacts of a PTSD?
Yeah. Well, 99% of all of our post-traumatic stress disruptions are coming from relationships. Relationships have had major impact on all of our decisions. Now, let's say you had a crazy mother, or a controlling father, an alcoholic mother, a alcoholic father, and they're going to put you through the emotional boot camp in which they believe how you are to act and perform. They're going to treat you the way they think they should. This is educating you on how to have relationships because this is your world. This is you're a child. You look at these people, these are your gods in a sense because they have the whole power over your life. And your value and identity comes from how they treat you and other people. So from our trainings as a child and even teenage years and adult years, because you could have a perfectly nice family, but then you had traumas at school, you could have traumas in dating, and next thing you know, your world flips upside down because of bad experiences. So a lot of times, the weird thing is that we have a tendency to follow suit after our trainers. Now, who's our trainers? Usually mom and dad, your relationship with your brother or your sister, and they have the strongest impact on you. So you could have a perfectly healthy mother and father, nice, but you may have a sibling who just hated you and they would beat you up and they'd treat you badly. And then you will build a relationship based on this major impact because your brain is designed for survival. So your relationships have a tendency to repeat cycles unless you change the original memories, adjust the memories to where they're no longer the same. So yeah, relationships, and by the way, divorce, a bad relationship with your mother, your father, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, these impact your value as a person. And the bizarre thing is, when they impact you, you leave that relationship and you go find another one just like it. Or if you're really good, you find them worse than what you just left. Some do because they don't know how to clean up the mess. And so that the training, the emotional conditionings set it up to where you repeat it. The woman says, I'm getting worse and worse and worse. Every relationship, I said, you're not getting worse. You're actually getting better at having bad relationships because you're compounding your learnings. And so, way to undo that, you have to change those references. And it is easy to do when you know what you're doing. Now, there could be complexities and it could, depends on how many references you have, but it's a doable thing. There are people come to my system, and because of the bad physical, emotional relationships, they've been physically ill. Lupus, Hashimoto's disease, Lyme disease, fibromyalgia, ME, the list goes on with stomach problems, back problems, etc., headaches, migraines. And a lot of it comes from relationships. Now, why is that? Because the brain is using that information to keep you safe in alignment with what's in your head and what you believe the world is. So yeah, relationships is the number one.
So for us being able to switch that situation, as you were talking about, like example, the women's her relationships later on become worse and worse, and she probably felt worse and worse in
Mhm.
herself, and
Mhm.
that's really not a good condition environment for the person to heal in order to feel better.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you said heal. You have to understand it's not an illness and it's not brokenness to the brain. To the brain, this is the right thing to do to keep you alive and safe. Now, consciously, we said I should not allow this. But since you're emotionally groomed and conditioned to follow the pattern, you're going to follow it without thinking. It's like you put your shoes on usually the same way. You have your normal patterns in your life and you just repeat the cycle over and over again.
Mhm.
So, like we talk about Jesus said, let the dead bury their dead because they don't know what they do. And what he's saying is that they don't know why they do what they do. They just do it and not and just repeating it over and over again. And so the cycle is become consciously aware and neurologically change what's inside there, you know? So just a Christian group, Jesus said, if your eyes cause you to stumble, pluck it out. He's not talking about eyeballs. He's talking about if what you see within you and outside you, if it causes you problems, pluck it out, change it, adjust it, remove it from your mind and your thinking. Now, again, how do you do that? That's a $100 question. And again, say faith. Well, what is faith? So, faith has references and proofs. It is God's if you look at Hebrews 11:1, what is faith? And basically, it's you believe it to be true without ever seeing it to be true. But it's like he said, like Moses in front of the children of Israel, and he tells them there's a land of milk and honey, which he says there's a place for you where you're going to have your two-story house, you're going to have your four-car garage, you're going to have beautiful land, you're going to have goats and stuff, and your property's going to be. And as he's telling this land of milk and honey, this audiences are creating images inside their mind of land of milk and honey, prosperous, happy children, big house, great job, great community. That's something they never saw, but they created within their mind. That's the power of belief. It's using something they never saw, but they feel to be true because it's been internalized. PTSD is the same program. You're manifesting from what you hope from within. Worry is, you know what worry is? Worry is creating scary stories inside your head. It feels true, and you're projecting it in the future. That's another law of attraction system. That's using the system that actually works. So you've got to be able to adjust how you hold things internally and what you worry about, you bring about. So don't worry, you tap. We use a tapping process, a form of relaxation. It's a defract, which is something I created to flatten out memories. Now, there's really good science that supports what I do. And the cool thing is about what I teach, you don't have to believe in it. You just have to try it and be honest. It'll work. because it's pure mental mechanics. So it's a neuroplasticity process. It has a healthy thinking system. And like I said, results speak very loud. Results speak very loud. So yeah, most of our issues come from relationships. I'd say 97% of them.
Yes. So now that's in the transition to, as you mentioning about your technique, the tapping. That's in the transition to from the you talk about the truth about the PTSD. Now let's get into the real stuff, the meat. Is that how you can change you change people's lives so quickly? I'm fascinated about that. Tell our audience. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the key to updating your memories is it's a natural thing your brain does all the time anyway. Usually we update memories and make them worse. Let's say, for example, you meet Marie and you meet, or we'll say you, we'll say John. You meet John and you have a positive memory with John. You sat there and you ate dinner with him. It was a great time. You had fun. You felt really good. And you're left with a good memory. As a matter of fact, when you talk about John, you smile and you feel really good, right? But how memories are actually changed, there has to be an internal update to that memory. And that's a bad memory and or a good memory. So here it is. You got a positive feeling about John, and then you go meet Jane, and you're having dinner, and you start talking about John. And Jane all of a sudden becomes animated, very angry, and in your face. You talking about John? And all of a sudden, while you're talking about the John in your head, you're listening to this woman. Her voice and her anger is really loud about John. All of a sudden, she's introducing a new idea about John. Now, what's going to happen is your memory of John is going to be shifted because now it's been educated and updated. Now, this is how brains work. So that means you can have, and this is how it works. So the science of two memories, and by the way, there's science showing this. Memory is like you take an index card out of your brain, and your brain reads what's on the index file, right? And it produces in your body and your thoughts whatever is written on the card. So that means you remember a happy memory. When you remember the happy memory, you actually start feeling happy just by remembering. Because again, the index card and memories are like trances, little hypnosis machines. You go back and you recall it and you feel like you're there. Now that's the bad stuff and the good stuff. Uh, if you're really good, you can take all the bad memories and turn them into good memories. But if you're really not so smart, you can take all your good memories, turn them into bad memories, and people do that too, by merely updating how they perceive and hold internalize the world. So there's a woman who came to see me, it's many years ago, because I'm in Oklahoma, and a friend of hers had written me and said, I have a friend who had a really bad thing happen in their home, and they would like for you to help them. And said, okay. So I gave him a call. We set up an appointment. What had happened is in Oklahoma, we carry guns, and it's okay to carry guns. And there was an intruder in the house, and the intruder was over by his kids. His wife gets up, and she saw that the front door is open. And then she goes look, and there's a tall man in the living room where the kids are sleeping. And she goes and says, John, there's somebody in the house. So John gets his gun. He's a military guy, and he kills this guy to protect his family, right? Now all of a sudden they got all kinds of bad stuff happening. Now they got anxiety being in the house. They have all these memories, and it's really, really horrible. And so they booked a session. So I worked with John. I worked with her, and within a few minutes, I used a phone, little iPhone with an app on it, and it made a funny sound. And I used a phone to destroy a rape memory that she had never worked on, very tearful. And when we got done in 12 minutes, the rape memory doesn't bother her. As a matter of fact, she laughs about it like it never happened. Weeks later, 3 or 4 weeks later, she came back and we did an interview checking it and said, well, how's it? How does it feel? He says, I try to make it bother me. It doesn't bother me. It's over. It's not me. Because neurologically, your brain will capture information, spread it across your cortices, and it'll make you feel weird. It'll make you feel happy. It makes you feel stressful. It's trying to protect you, whatever the information is. And memories are very simple to update when you understand the mechanics of it. Now, if you're going to go to people who don't know what they're going to do, you'll be chasing rainbows and rabbits and never catch anything. And so that's the big difference is that this actually does work. And I've had people like I do sessions every week, and I had one person said, I said, "How'd you find me? I found you a week ago." I said, "Well, at least you're fast." And of course, she gives me this long list of memories, and I changed all those bad, help her. Now, it's not mystical, it's not magical, it's mechanical. You do certain things, you do everything I say is going to work. And by the time we're done, the most horrible memory of her whole life, she said, it doesn't even seem like it's me. I know it happened, but it's not real today. And that's the key. It's not real today. Because when you remember a bad memory, and you try it, you think of a bad memory, it feels real right now. You think a good memory, it feels good, real right now. And so this is the mechanics of it. It is simple and very profoundly effective. I bought a desk, the desk in the office, and the guy delivered it. His name is David. And of course, I have this big ranch. I show him around, show the fish and all the cows and stuff. He goes, "What do you do? What do you do for a living?" I said, "I'm a neuroplastician, behavioral engineer. I help people change their lives, get rid of fears, phobia, trauma, PTSD, you name it. I can help people adjust it." He goes, "Even complex PTSD?" I said, "Of course." I said, "Since he's the military guy," I said, "if you want, won't you pick a memory and I'll help you change it?" So he come up here in my office about 45 minutes later. We worked on one major memory. It's a really big memory. As a matter of fact, that memory for 43 years kept him from sleeping all night. Every 2 hours, he'd wake up and say, no matter how much whiskey I drink, no matter what pain pills I take, no matter sleeping medication, only 2 hours at a time. And of course, I had to figure out why. Well, he was in the military. And in his brain, he was still in the war. He was still in Vietnam. He was still there. But when he's done, he says, I know it happened, but it's over. Now, by the way, the side effect of changing that one memory, his sleeping went from 2 hours at a time. The first night it was four. By the time Friday happened, he was sleeping 8 hours a day. He said, I had to sleep 8 hours a night since I was 16 years old before I went into the military. By merely changing one big stretch of memory, and it's a great story too. But so this is the mechanics of the mind. Now, again, I work with, like I said, the worst possible scenarios. You name it, I've helped a lot of people with it. So the truth about PTSD, first of all, it's not a disease, it's not a disorder, it's your brain survival system. Now, consciously, if you don't know anything, you think you're going crazy. It feels real. The panic attacks are real. You're always walking around like you're afraid somebody's going to get you. But when it's over, it's like, I know it's not real. I know it's not true. And like David said, I'm not there anymore. I'm here. I'm not in war. That's 43 years later. He still lived and lacked he was in war. And the reason is the trauma or the exposure and education on how to survive in that world. Just like with you, your training with your mother and your father, however they treated you, just like your boyfriends, your husbands, your wife, whatever it is, they educate us on how to survive, and that is what we call PTSD. But RD is disturbance or distinction or discernment. You're not broken, and it can change. I can help people. They book a 1 session, 2 hour session. We change a lot of memories, and a lot of things can shift and change. People will heal their bodies by releasing trauma from their mind. People will improve their relationships by healing the relationships they witnessed in their past. So all of this is it's all connected.
Mm. Wow, excellent. So we know the trauma is that how the person process the stress that causes dis-ease inside of us, and
Mhm,
as this event is for the faith community, and you mentioned about Jesus and the Bible and God,
mhm,
and He taught us to forgive others. And so
mhm.
my question more specifically narrowed to how you use the tapping
Okay.
technique
Uh,
help people to utilize
well,
God's
uh,
image, utilize their faith, and work with the forgiveness.
yeah. So what is forgiveness? What is forgiveness? First of all, you can do lip service with forgiveness. I forgive my dad, I forgive my mom, or forgive whoever. Uh, True forgiveness is not going to your dad or your mom and say, "Hey, I forgive you for what you did." I call ultimate forgiveness is going inside you and changing the reasons why you thought you need to forgive someone else. Because see, unforgiveness is a curse against yourself. Who's feeling it? You are. Who's producing it? You are. Who's holding the memories that torment you? You are. So I call ultimate forgiveness is going inside of the self, making peace with the memories. Jesus said, if your eyes cause you to stumble, pluck it out. If your memories are causing you problems, change them and adjust them, erase them, redo them. And again, God does not give you a spirit of fear, but a sound mind. We need to use it. God, love, peace, let's see, love, joy, peace, kindness, temperance, and self-control. Self-control is taking control of the self, and the self is internal representations. So if you, and it said, Jesus said what? Matthew, like, judge not, you be not judged. In the same measure you judge, you're being judged. When you have anger and unforgiveness for someone else, that's your poison. That's the one that's tormenting you. If you condemn someone else, you're already condemned within yourself because you're producing it first. So the principles of one of the main components of teachings of Jesus is forgiveness. Forgiveness is changing what you hold against someone else within you. It's not saying I forgive you out there because it's inside you that they have a problem. You go to someone else, you've been holding this grudge against somebody for years, and you go and you forgive them for what they did. And I said, I didn't do that. I don't remember doing that. Who does? You do. Who's holding the memory? You are. Who's the movie director? You are. Who are all the actors and players in your memory? You are. You can do it by yourself in a padded room. So again, forgiveness is not saying I forgive you. Forgiveness is saying I release it from within me. I don't hold it in me. I change it from within. That's true forgiveness.
Hmm.
It's a key component of Christianity too, by the way.
Yes, that's right. So we also know forgiveness is not a forgetfulness. We don't forget the information, the memories there, but tell us when we forgive and let go of the holding on to the anger, the resentment, the hatred.
Mhm.
But we still can have that memory there, but it doesn't affect us
But
anymore.
that's not true. It does affect you. It's still a poison. It is a poison within yourself. You can say you forgive, but if you forgive, you don't have that reference inside. You can be educated, but you will not have. Again, that's a misnomer. That's not true. I will forgive you, but I'll never forget. What you're saying is, I'll forgive you, but I'll keep it as my reference to torment me later. You don't want it inside. Now, here's the bizarre things. Let's say, for example, you have someone who's abused you, and so you're not going to hold on to this memory. And you're going to keep it as a reference against that person just in case they want to do it again. So this holding it inside you is going to guarantee you're going to feel it again because you're keeping this jewel inside you, this little painful moment. So this is your poison. Over in Luke, it says, um, if your eyes are light, your body's light. If your eyes are dark, your body's dark. And how great the darkness is. Now, what he's talking about is it your blue eyes and brown eyes? If what you see within you and outside you is light, positive, and joyful, the joyful and positive will be inside you. If your eyes are dark, that means you're thinking negative, you see negative, you look for negative. Inside your body is really negative, and how negative that surely is. But over in I see Matthew or Luke, I remember which one, maybe it was Luke that says this. If your eyes are light, your body's light. If your eyes are dark, your body's dark. And how great that darkness is. But the other parable says, see to it that the light within you is not darkness. Now, what that says is that some people think it's good to keep the negative memories handy. That good is a poison that will rot the whole self. Remember, a divided house falls, a divided mind falls. Being pure is purely being clean within yourself. Now, it is a process, it's a growth system. We're not going to say I'm a sinner. We're going to say I'm walking in the light of God by forgiving myself, what I hold within myself, and everyone else around me. So I believe true Christianity is emotional intelligence. Spirituality is not allowing any negative memory abide within your head because if it does, you get to suffer because of it. Clean your temple, and the temple's here. It says Jesus said you don't need to go to the temple. The temple's inside you. I knocked the glass down. Inside you. The temple's within you. If you don't keep the temple clean, you got pigs running through your mind. And those are the pigs that make you stink. Do act back bad behavior. And you say, why do I do this? It's because you do it because you hadn't let go of the memories. You think it's good to hold on to the bad memories. is a poison. That doesn't, but here's a cool thing. It doesn't make you stupid when you make peace with it because you get the lesson from it. If you hold a bad memory, you're guaranteed to experience it again, if only by yourself.
Wow. So to change this part of the memory, besides the Christian practice, prayer, reading the Bible, reading the scripture, listen to the sermon, um, what would you suggest our listener out there they can do it differently and to change that part of unconscious memory?
Well, I think you need to learn, everybody should learn, one, how to use your brain in a way. You need to learn how your brain works. You need to make peace with yourself within yourself. So, I teach how the brain works. You can change yourself, as of course I teach. You can change yourself. It is a form of purification. Sanctification is puring, renewing your mind every day by changing unpleasantry. So I do that. I teach people how to do that. People will book sessions with me. I have them write a big long list of every bad thing. We'll clean all those up. Uh, what people need to do, because reading your Bible is one, that's great, but your Bible doesn't have how to change that memory. I looked through there. It says forgiveness, but it doesn't show you how to do it. 7 times 70, what the hell does that mean? You know? You have to be able to pluck out memories. You have to be able to change what you hold within yourself. That's true spiritual work. Now, again, the Bible doesn't have everything in the Bible. Of the whole time of Jesus, there's a lot missing. You know, at one time there was a lot more books in the Bible. What now we have the watered down version of it. If you understand the history of the Bible, So again, if you want to be spiritual, spirituality starts by keeping your mind clean, your thoughts clean, and changing everything within yourself.
So what I'm hearing you were talking is about the Bible said that renew our mind, transform our lives.
Mhm.
So the part of memory, whatever memory inside of us happened yesterday, even back to the childhood,
Mhm.
we have to deal with them to renew them. And so for that part of memory can be transformed into something new,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. You have to. Or you don't have to, but if you don't change, you get to go again. You get to re-experience. If you have negative memories, you're going to experience it again. It controls your decisions, it controls your behaviors, and makes you do things you wish you hadn't have done after it's said and done.
Wow. So we do have this inner work to do. Uh,
It's all inner work. I mean, the whole thing is inner work.
mhm.
It's all inner work. Um,
So
but
good.
yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to tell our audience about your tapping technique and how this works for
Well,
PTSD?
well, again, I know you use the word tapping. Tapping is just a kinesthetic. Uh, what it does, it introduces relaxation to your memories. There's a lot of people use tapping, get no results. The certain way to update your memories is to do it in a specific way. It's a form of laying on of hands. Of course, in the three of the four gospels, Jesus gave the disciples certain things to do. One, go to the world. Two, preach the gospel, means teach the truth. Three, make disciples. Four, lay hands on the sick. How do you lay hands on the sick? I've looked through the book, I couldn't find it. No one really knows how to do that, but these are the four commandments that God gave the disciples to you and I: make disciples, preach the truth, help everybody, lay hands on the sick. No one knows how they did that. There's no instructions in the book. But if you ever Google Jesus, you'll see his fingers parting at his heart and two fingers up like this. Maybe he did tap. We don't know. We weren't there. Maybe he didn't. We don't know. We weren't there. But I'll say this, uh, it's just a way to relax the body to update memories. When you go to a negative memory, you feel negative in your body kinesthetically. When you relax the body, when you look at the memory, that you're introducing relaxation into the memory, therefore the memory will adjust internally. And again, all our problems start with memories. You
Mm.
know, take every thought captive. Be the master of your own thoughts. We don't tuck away the memories that are bad. We change the memories that are bad, and we
Mm.
keep the lessons.
Wow. This is so good. So we have to work with not just the mind, also with in touch with the body they were talking about.
Yeah. Well, the body, remember most, there's a misnomer out there. The body keeps the score. The truth is the body is innocent. It only expresses what the mind holds. I have a son-in-law, he's Christian, and he said, well, the body's evil and bad. I said, really? I said, have you ever experienced God? He said, yeah. I said, how did you know you experienced God? He said, I felt it. I said, where'd you feel it at? In your body? So the body is innocent. You can think of a happy thought, you feel happy in your body. You think of a negative thought, you feel negative in your body. So the key is the body is an honest expression of unconscious information that you may not know. It's an autonomic response to the world based on your conditionings of your past. If you have bad conditions, you're going to have bad response. You have anxiety, panic attacks, fears, and phobias. So just remember the body's innocent. It expresses what the brain holds. If you change what the brain holds, your body acts differently. And that's how I help people get rid of really big issues, physical pains, fibromyalgia gone, lupus, blood tested there, blood tested gone, Hashimoto's disease, blood tested there, blood tested gone. Two of my students came, they had lupus, and the doctor said, don't try it, diet won't fix it, you'll have it forever. And see, they just followed my teachings, used what I taught, and they got rid of the lupus, and they got rid of the Hashimoto's disease. And there's many people with lupus and Lyme disease and POTS disease. They heal their bodies by changing memories.
Mm.
So
Well,
yeah.
that's really the good news. So much hope you just
Mhm.
offered to our audience.
Yeah.
Um, come to the end of our section. I do have a last question is that I know many people they suffer from trauma. They have a post-trauma stress disturbance.
Mhm.
It's just constantly, sometimes daily interrupt their lives. So of course, there are solutions. There's, as you were talking about, good tools to utilize and change that. And how can people move from many people see the world, see others through the lens of trauma, right?
Yeah, of course. Of
Basically,
course.
based
Yeah.
on our brain is for the surviving. So how did, of course, you mentioned about this, change from see the world from the trauma lens, and unless until we heal from the trauma inside, then we see the world in a different way,
Mhm.
even the
Mhm.
lens. You talk about
Yeah.
the light of the
Yeah. Yeah.
eyes if it's
Yeah.
healthy. So,
Mhm. Yeah. See, all trauma, you have to understand traumas are education on how the world works. If you had a bad education, bad exposure, you're going to see the world from that education. Unless you change the pain of what happened, you'll change how you view the world too. So again, people who are always scared, they have a reason why they're scared. They have references and proofs. Now, again, when you update those references and proofs, it doesn't make you stupid. You're just more aware and you have more options to act instead of just one being scared.
mm,
So there are everything, we distort everything to match what we already have inside of our brain.
hmm right. So by doing the inner work, heal from the trauma, post trauma, then we can start building healthy, good relationships with other
Mhm.
people.
Yeah, because all relationships are built on how you operate within yourself, your way you see yourself, how you see yourself with others, how you were treated by your past. It affects all relationships. And so when you update what you hold, you act differently, perform differently, and are different
Mhm.
because you're renewing of your mind, renewing of your memories. Change your mind means change your memories. You change your life.
Mm.
It's
So
not
then
changing
we,
which color of shoes you wear. It's
right.
changing what you hold within yourself.
So that's the big commandments that love your neighbor as yourself.
Right? No, it says you will love your neighbor as you love
As
yourself.
yeah.
So that say so that if you say that same thing, you'll love your neighbor as you love yourself. For what you love here, you give to them. You'll despise your ex-husband as you despise yourself. You'll just be disgusted by the next door neighbor as you have disgust within you. So what it says, you is saying that what you do inside you, you're going to see outside you. You're going to treat people the way you treat within yourself. So we used to think just be nice to them, and that's what you're supposed to do. He said, no. He says you'll be nice based on the niceness or the ugliness within yourself.
That's right. People can. sometimes they can do good and treat other people nicely and kindly, but they're worst enemy to themselves.
Yeah. And they do create that in other people too, in covert ways
Mm,
or
wow.
overt ways. Yeah.
So that's more subtle and hidden. Well,
Yeah.
well, thank you, Robert, for your time. And how can people find you and contact you?
Well, my name's Robert Gene, Gene. You can always Google that. My website is skills to change, TOCHANGE.com. I have lots of YouTube videos. You Google me, Robert Gene, you'll find me on YouTube. You can come to one of my trainings. Every week we do sessions. People can sign up, and we'll help people change memories. We do live trainings. We do You Can Change Yourself course. We just teach you how to do that. So I'm here. I'm everywhere. So if you're ready to stop suffering, you're ready for something better, you want something that actually does work, measurable changes, come visit me. I'll change your life.
Thank you, Robert, for your excellent work so much. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.